Today was one of those days where you watch Donald Trump and for a second you get to enjoy the comedy side of him, and then you're like, tomorrow you'll go back to the terrifying side of him. Because that line was honestly one of the funniest things I've ever heard him say, where he said, the press has treated me so badly, folks. So badly, it's been local. And in that moment, I don't know if you noticed, he even like becomes sort of, it sounds like he's trying to do like a Mexican, without even realizing it. He's like, it's been local. They treat me crazy. They treat me crazy. So local. Like the whole time I was watching that, I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if Trump like practiced a few like key phrases in Spanish just for that meeting, and like just came in there and he was like, yo soy capitán. Don't mess me around, Mexico. Yo no soy pendeja. I'm crazy. I want this deal. And then he got the deal and he walked there. He's like, I told you those Gabriel Iglesias DVDs would pay back, folks. I learned so much. This whole thing with Trump and the Democrats and the infrastructure meeting, for me, is really easy to understand if you understand Trump as just a human being, which I know is hard. I know it's hard. But if you just think of him as a human being, you understand that he can't compartmentalize, right? So like fundamentally, look at what happened here. The Democrats had a meeting where they were talking about him possibly obstructing justice, investigating him, etc. And then the next meeting they have is with him to talk about infrastructure. And he's like, no, you can't just do that. You get what I'm saying? Like Trump is like, you just said you're gonna investigate me and maybe impeach me, and now you wanna talk to me about, and he's like, no. And they're like, yeah, that was a separate meeting. He's like, nuh-uh. Like fundamentally, it's like a relationship, you know what I mean? It's like Trump is going like, no, like we just fought in the living room, and then now you get in the bedroom and the Democrats are like, so you wanna do infrastructure? And Trump is like, no, I still want to talk about what happened in the living room. And they're like, Donald, that was the living room. He's like, I don't care. You're not getting any of this until we talk about that. That's fundamentally what it is. And I honestly get where he's coming from as a human being, like in that way. Because like what's weird, it has been for me for a long time, especially with American politicians, but politicians in general, is they have this weird rhythm of how they deal with love and hate, you know? So like, for a long time in America, it's been that way. One party is trying to destroy another candidate or another person on the other side, and they still work with them. So for instance, like Obama's a good example. Republicans ran around calling him a secret Muslim. Oh, the secret Muslim, he's a secret Muslim. And then like immediately the next day, he would work with them on whatever project that they were working on together. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, he'd be like, yeah, I mean, I don't like what they said, but I gotta work, we gotta work towards healthcare. We gotta do this thing. I mean, like, but they said that thing, and it worked the other way as well. It's not like it was it's a Democrat pro thing. It was the same thing the other way around. You know, Democrats accused George Bush of stealing the election, but then afterwards they were like, yeah, we're still gonna help you to invade Iraq, you know? And I mean, that's pretty much what American politics is. Trump is like, no, I remember what you said. Not nice. That's the one exciting thing about Donald Trump, is that we're all learning about the country with him. Like, this is the first time, like, can I tell you, at the end of Donald Trump's presidency, we will all be as qualified to be president as he will. We will all have the same training, the same knowledge, the same experience, all of that shit. I'm like emoluments clause, divestment of business, like I'm in the mix now. I'm just like, you know, because like Americans, because beforehand, let's be honest, Americans were like a little apathetic about everything. Americans were like, yeah, our president will handle that. It's okay. You know, it's like Obama was driving the bus, and everyone's like, yeah, he's a good driver. I trust him. And then like Donald Trump's like, all aboard. And now everyone's like, okay, how do the brakes work? Okay, study, people. He's gonna kill us. You know, Melania Trump with her outfits when she goes to visit people, I don't know which way it is, because I mean, like, everyone has different theories. Some people think, because she said, I'm going to the border to see what the real story is with the migrant children, the immigrants that have come in and they're locked up. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. She's going to go and, shed a light on it. And then she throws on a jacket that says, I don't really care, do you? And then part of me was going like, oh, maybe she didn't pay attention. She just, it's tone deaf. She didn't think about it. And then her spokesperson was like, hey, no, there's no hidden message. It was like, we just didn't think of it. Sorry about that. And then Trump came out and tweeted, and he's like, that jacket was about the fake news. Melania's showing that she doesn't care. And it's like, she just said there's no hidden message. And he's like, hidden message. He's like, what do you, like, I'm not going to lie. When I see things like this, it genuinely makes me believe that Donald Trump didn't collude with Russia. Because I think he would have told us by now. I'm going to put it out there. I do believe we're going to find out people around him tried to collude, but I think he tells us everything. He just cannot, he told us why he fired James Comey. He tells every single secret. I don't think he'd be able to keep it in. At some point, he would have been like, and that's why I colluded. They came to me. I said, let's do it. I said, let's do it. Donald Trump is, here's the thing about Donald Trump that I will admit that a lot of people don't even realize they feel about him, is I think Donald Trump appeals to a thing that every human being has inside of them, and that is to live in a world where you can just say and do whatever you like. Even if you don't like him, there are moments where you watch him and you're just like, man, it looks liberating. You've been impeached. There's a Senate trial, and you're on stage like, dishwashers. What's the deal? Not enough water in the dishwasher. You got the toilet, you're flushing it so many times. So many times. It doesn't flush, it doesn't go down. It doesn't go down. He's just like, he's living his life. He's just living his life. Oh, man. All right, we're ready to do some sports? Yeah, we're ready to do it? Give it up for Roy and Michael, everybody. The wildest thing Trump said in that speech was he was at the rally and then he said to the audience, he said, I can't believe it. I'm talking about toilets, showers, faucets, washing machines. It's not dignified. It's not dignified. I can't talk about this at the State of the Union. I can't. I would, but I can't. Because I want them to say it was a great speech. I can't. You can't make a great speech if you're talking about washers and dishwash. No one's gonna say, what a great speech. He spoke about dishwashers. And I was like, that's actually a brilliant observation. It's true. I was thinking about it the whole day. I was like, I think it is impossible to make, I don't care who you, can you imagine Martin Luther King with all of his speaking prowess? I doubt that he could be out there and he'd just be like, I flushed that toilet so many times. It never went down. I tried again and again. It never went down. It's not, I don't care how great you are as a speaker. Dishwasher, there's no great dishwasher speech out there. There's no Nelson Mandela dishwasher speech where he's just like, I believe in a dishwasher where the plates and the dishes, where the bowls and the cups are not separated. Let the dishes be put together. Let the cutlery be next to the pots. No more separating all of these things. I'm always amused by how Trump's defense team tries to obscure the real reason the impeachment trial is happening. Like Trump's lawyer, Jay Sekulow, when he's up there, he's like, why are we here? Because of a phone call? No, it's because of what was said on that phone call and then what was done after that phone call and before the phone. That's why the people are there. He's making it like it's just about it's because of a phone call? Huh? It's like, I'd love to do that at trial. Why am I here? Huh? Because I walked into that bank? Well, and then what did you do when you were in the bank? That's not the point!